business.
Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I also got a YouTube channel by the same name, so I'm always trying to not mess up when I do that intro. But yeah, if you haven't been listening to the show before, my name is Sal, and basically I do a YouTube channel, I do a podcast. I got a bunch of books out there, and they're all about raising money, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, how do you get funding for a new product, how do you pay for your tooling costs, how do you deliver with the minimum order quantity, a lot of stuff out there in terms of how do you get set up, essentially. But one of the things that I also like to cover is e-commerce and also setting the stage, I think, for your future success. Now, if this is the first time you've ever listened to a show like this, you might think that that's kind of hokey, right? To think about the future and a vision that you have for yourself, and like that's kind of all like personal development stuff. But I think it actually really integrally ties into what you believe is capable for you, your business, what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to launch a new software company, you're trying to launch a new hardware product, you're trying to make a new tabletop game, it really doesn't matter. And what I like to do is what's called cross-pollination, where we have a bunch of different types of guests on this show. So if you go back into the archives, you can see people who have done tabletops, who've launched a new music album on Kickstarter, who have done things like invent an entire new design product. And today is a bit of a special show. So it's special for a few different reasons. But basically, we got hooked up with today's podcast guest, courtesy of the folks at Fulfillrite. Fulfillrite is one of my sponsors for this podcast and also the YouTube channel. They've been my sponsor since I got started in the early days. Funny story, I mean, Charlie reached out to me. He's the CEO there, the founder. He reached out to me when I started my blog, CrowdCrux, 8 years ago. 8 years ago, man. I was literally just a kid, writing online, and I was trying to get a bit of a following, and he reached out. He was really smart, I think, innovative thinker, and he's reached out, and, we started working together. So that's kind of where our genesis of our relationship started, but he's also been such a keen mind when it comes to how do you get a product out there to people efficiently and use things like software, automation, technology in his plant, his fulfillment company, in order to make this happen much quicker. And obviously he's competing with the likes of Amazon, right? So this is a family-owned, extremely efficient business that's also puts a prize on customer loyalty. And we have a great relationship, which is why he was willing to introduce me to today's guest, right? So today's guest actually appeared on ABC's hit show Shark Tank. If you've never watched Shark Tank, it's basically a show in the States we have where a bunch of entrepreneurs come up and they pitch an idea to, let's just say 5 or 6 people, maybe 5 people. Depends on if they have a guest or not, right? 4 or 5 people. And people like Mark Cuban, Barbara Corcoran, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, Damon John, like a bunch of other people, depending on if they have a guest or not. And you pitch the idea to them, and if they decide to invest, it happens right then, right there. So you have different terms for your deal, like, hey, I want to give away 5% of the company or 10% or 20%. I'm looking for this equity stake. And you present the product, you present the pitch. People who are watching the show get to kind of at home discuss it and talk about it. And I think it really shows that anyone can become an entrepreneur. Anyone can create their own product if they want to. But the coolest thing about this show is that it happens in real time, right there. So like Mark Cuban can decide whether or not he wants to invest in you or buy the company outright, and you become a millionaire overnight. It's like literally epitomizes, or the epitome of the American dream. Now, I know you might not be from the United States. You might be listening to this. You might be in the UK. You might be in Canada. You might be in South Korea. You could be in Germany listening to this podcast. So I'm not just trying to make this an American thing, but one of the things about America is that we're really focused on innovation, on risk-taking, on being willing to fail, right? And this show for us, just to give you an insight into our culture, the show for us kind of epitomizes that idea that anyone in the States can start a business from scratch, can become a millionaire, can grow a huge user base, can have a bunch of employees, can ship out tons of products to people. And that show really shows that, I think, tangibly, right? That someone can go overnight, get a really big investment from a billionaire like Mark Cuban and get this thing out there. So to me, that's so inspirational. And we were able to have one of the people who appeared on the show, well, actually the team behind this, the founders, on the show for a completely new product. This product is called Bubbly Blaster. Bubbly Blaster is basically something that it's really fun. It attaches to like if you have a champagne bottle or other types of bottles, you can attach this thing and you can spray the drink into people's mouth. You can just spray it around. It's really fun if you want to go to like a pool party or you want to have your own little birthday celebration. It's a heck of a lot of fun, man. And also they have this cool thing where you can have a video mount, so you can record the party as everyone is taking swigs of the champagne bottle. So it's a really neat, or an iPhone if you want to. They have an iPhone mount. So these guys got approached by the Shark Tank crew, and they're going to tell you the story of, number one, how they got onto Shark Tank. Number two, the different ways in which you can actually appear on this hit ABC show. Number three, how they got the product from idea stage to prototype to finding a factory to then eventually getting it into a full-fledged product. I think we're on number 4, number 5. I forget. We're on one of these. They then get into the marketing side, where all of their traffic is coming from. What is this Shark Tank effect that people have talked about in terms of getting massive popularity? How long did it take them to get on the show? And other things like advice that they would have for beginning entrepreneurs, for beginning founders, right? So one of the things I think that really allows them to run such a incredible company and with a small team is that they use a lot of technology, and they kind of get into some of the technology that they use to power their entire business. So things like the dashboards that they have, so they can maintain this really easily and just check it from their phone and make sure everything is running smoothly. Like, I think that's every entrepreneur's dream, right? And these guys were so kind, being willing to come on the show and share that with us. So I would look at today's episode. We're not talking about crowdfunding. We're talking about e-commerce. Today's episode is a little bit of an inspiration. It's also a little bit of techniques and tips and tools, and I really hope that you enjoy it. It's coming up right after this. So we have the team here on the show. Guys, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Cheers.
Doing well. I think the first question I'd have is, can you explain for those people who are not familiar, what is Bubbly Blaster? Can you just get a little bit into that bite-sized?
Oh, absolutely. Bubbly Blaster is an invention I came up with several years ago. We were at a celebration, spraying some champagne. It was over too fast. And I was like, man, this could be improved. It was just like a fun little project I made. I welded up this little device in my garage. I never thought it was going to be a business. But then when I showed it to some friends, they're like, man, this thing is pretty sweet. We want to buy these things. Not long after that, I met Brad, and we teamed up, and now we're selling these puppies, and it's a success.
When you were first getting started there, like, had you designed products before, or was this your first one?
I've designed a few products in the past, but this is the first one we brought to market. I come from like a design and programming background, so I used to work for Yahoo and things like that, and came up with some web properties. But this is our first physical product that we brought to market.
And when was the moment where you were like, I kind of want to, see what I can do with the project? Because we all have these different ideas. We tinker around, we come up with a prototype, but like, you kind of decided to go to the next level there. What moment caused that?
Well, when I first came up with this thing, and we're doing some market research with friends, everybody's coming up with different ideas of what to do with it. And when Brad came along, he had his own ideas. Why don't you tell him?
Yeah, I think we realized, obviously it was a fun kind of novelty item, but I think, even with trying to explain it to people at first before we launched it to the market, you have naysayers that kind of say this is a silly idea, but we had several. Stacy went with some friends at SpaceX, and they created a 3D professional model. So we had 15, 20 of those that we could test out certain market segments. And honestly, the changing factor was that as soon as they got it in their hand, no one had anything bad things to say. So it was instant, like it was a 180 of this is a silly idea to, oh man, this is great. I can really see this is a fun thing. It was an instant conversation starter, and obviously an instant content creator, because the first thing was like, oh, hey, can you take my phone? Let me get a video or a picture. So I knew at that moment was like, hey, Stacey, we've got to take this. Let's figure out a way to manufacture this. I really think we have a viable business here, whether it be a short-term project. Obviously this is mainly a one-time buy for the most part, but I never thought it would be, we're a little bit over 2 years deep now, and obviously we see more of a long-term goal, but we thought this would be a kind of, a fun thing, for us to learn to do business together. Obviously, it's our first project together. So there's a lot of firsts for us through this process, but it's turned out great. We had some, great success along the way. People, still love it. And obviously when the recent Shark Tank adventure, it's been a good adventure so far. Let's put it that way.
Totally. How do you work together as a team? Like what's the role breakdown here?
Well, I'm the creative side, so I did the engineering and design and the patenting. I do all the website work, all the programming, and Brad is the business side. He's got the MBA, and he is the CEO, professional. We call him the Jefe around here. So our skills really complement each other. It's quite a dream team. We're going to be bringing a lot of products to market.
How'd you guys meet, out of curiosity?
Oh, after you.
We had I was actually maybe 4.5 years ago. I was on the tail end of a birthday celebration, and a mutual friend from Australia was like, "Hey, man, you got to meet this guy with crazy cat. You love him." So wound up meeting that day, and I think we've been best buddies since then. So yeah, I knew Stason probably for a good maybe year, 2 years before we stepped in this, because obviously, you've always heard, be careful, when you're working with friends, because you kind of mix it, cross those boundaries and whatnot. So we knew that going into it. We had a plan. Obviously, it could have went wrong, but we worked there's a great synergy between us. I've learned a lot from him and vice versa, and we continue to grow together. So I think that's a key thing we tell everyone, is make sure you've got the right partner, but there is a risk, when you work with friends, but it's worked out fantastic for us, of how we work together and how we solve problems, and, where disagreements of,
I love that. That's incredible. And I think it's almost like getting married, kind of. Like, I know it's kind of weird, right? But it's kind of getting married, because you're with your business partner for a long time. You guys gotta be able to communicate and all that kind of stuff. So you just basically, you decided to go straight to e-commerce. Like, how did you transition into bringing this to market?
So that obviously, direct consumer is the route we prefer, because I don't know a lot. Back then I didn't know a lot about retail and distribution, wholesale, anything like that. So, and obviously that's where you keep the margin the best. And we just thought this approach for this type of product would be the best. Of capturing a target audience through online ads, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, and just would be a whole lot easier to start with direct consumer versus trying to go into other multiple channels. So that's kind of where we started. The toughest part for us was figuring out the manufacturing component. Obviously, we didn't really have any solid connections at that time frame, and it is a difficult product to make. It's a very unique design that Stason came up with. So a lot of learning process. Probably 14 to 16 months of sourcing. Communication issues. We've had to go through 2 manufacturers to get it dialed in. So that was a lot of the learning curve. But I think with Stason's background with previous e-commerce business, and design capabilities, that part was kind of easy for us. Once we use Shopify for our platform, and it literally integrates with anything you could possibly do. So our whole game plan up front was to create a very lean business structure that was ready from every standpoint we needed, whether it be accounting, financing, fulfillment, shipping, all those things that we take up time. So, for us, being a small team, efficiency is key. So we can literally run the business from our phone, and we've got a great structure dialed in where we can scale up easily, and, review metrics, and, great dashboards for all of our integration apps. So
very cool. Very cool. When it comes to creating the product, you mentioned, finding different factories. Were you going to the factories, like flying to them physically, or how did you make sure you had a quality one there?
We had to interview several factories. We never flew to China. They're being manufactured in Shenzhen at the moment, above Hong Kong. We never went to the factories, but we had a few different agents working for us over there. That was definitely one of our biggest hurdles. On the outset,
it's an experience.
It is, because I designed this thing and made a 3D model with the help of my SpaceX buddies, and did some 3D printing, and the process to change the 3D printed precision shapes over to a cast, welded together 2 halves piece with all these different parts in there, and quality control and all these things. Dialing it in at the factory was a huge undertaking. That's probably our most consuming feat to date, I'd say. That probably took a year.
So I know injection molding is for plastic. Is that a similar process that you guys use, or was it creating a cast, or how did that work?
Yeah, ours are cast, so it's cast in two halves, and then there's a copper pipe in the center with some brass pieces. It is, and our process, we have to go to 3 different factories, and we finally came upon an agent over there that lives over there that we were referred to by some friends of mine that were working on some other projects over there. Came highly recommended, and after many back and forths, many iterations of modifying the design to make it work, we finally settled on it, and this dude's been handling it for us ever since.
I think people really underestimate, like, creating a prototype. Once you get to that stage, like, you think that's initially scary and hard to do, but then it's like, how do you make 1,000 of them, right?
Yeah,
And that's like a whole other challenge, right?
absolutely. Yeah, making the prototype, that was
It's the easy part.
That's the easy part, man. I love to build things. I love to come up with ideas, and patent the good ones and just keep refining them. But to produce things on a mass scale, that is a true undertaking. That's been a big hassle. But the creation part, man, that's the pleasuresome part. We love that.
Mm-hmm. So talking a little bit about the way that people are discovering about this. You mentioned doing like Facebook ads. Have you also found like organic kind of marketing working with you? I was on your site, like, you have some great video content there. I could totally see that getting good organic pickup.
Yes, definitely a mix for us, with organic and paid ads. I mean, obviously when we launched back in early 2019, it was a heavy organic push there from people sharing the videos and whatnot. And literally we're just, it's funny you bring that up. We're just reviewing some of the sources, from the analytics, and we still just have a heavy, both direct and organic search. So I'd say right now it's probably 70-30, with 70% being organic and direct, versus 30% of paid search. So we leverage
That's really
both.
healthy, yeah.
So it's great. It's fantastic because, again, that saves us some advertising expense there with still such a strong organic search.
Now, I think this would be kind of, I mean, in general, this is remarkable, that the fact you can get an idea to prototype and then to make it and then to sell it, like, that in of itself is like, congratulations, right? But then you even took another step further, right? And you managed to get on Shark Tank. So, like, where did that even start, that process? Were you applying? Did they find you? Like, how'd that come about?
Like I said, there's a couple different ways you can get on Shark Tank, and obviously, the main are, like I said, they have a casting call, they have a direct application process, or they can reach out to you as well. So that's kind of the 3 entry routes to Shark Tank. But we had, I think, maybe there was an ad or a feature on Mashable.com, maybe sometime right around February in 2020. And one of the producers of Shark Tank, ran across the ad and sent us an email. And that's kind of how it started. Like, hey guys, I think you have a great product here. Would love to hear your story and see if you'd be a fit, for our application process. And
yeah, we didn't seek out to be on Shark Tank. They approached us, and so we were like, wow, do we really want to go on the show? We might be made fools of on the show. This might not move for us. So initially, I had to convince Brad over here. I was like, man, we should, we're getting invited to join the process. Let's try it out. And Brad's like, I don't know. We might, this might not be the right business.
Cuban, yeah. You got to face down Cuban.
And then it flip-flopped halfway through. We were like 6 months in, and I'm like, man, this is like so much work. And I don't know, it might not turn out. And Brad's like, no, you got me to do it. Now we're definitely going to do it. Pushing each other through it the whole time. It's a long process.
It's a very long, strenuous process.
Yeah.
How long did it take from you getting discovered? I think you said February, right? 2020?
Yeah, it's about, I mean, honestly, the whole process has almost been a year for us, but I'd say from the initial, probably a good 7-8 months until we filmed. And then obviously, like I said, we can only tell you things that are publicly available, obviously, when NDA there, but it's just a long process. You can go online and, some people have kind of given high-level overviews of it. It's a long process. You're never guaranteed anything. You can film and not be promised to air, things like that. So there's just a lot of risk there of you doing a lot of work and never getting any out of it. So for us, it was a great experience. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It was already hard enough to get on the show prior to COVID. With the additional restrictions and the bubble they have to create to film, it was an even more difficult process. So we're very grateful and blessed to be able to not only go through the entire process, be selected, and obviously recently air. So it was definitely worth all the stress and anxiety and hassle of getting through it. But you know, it's a great exposure for us.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a big payoff. We're super stoked about it.
What did it feel like when you finally walked into the room? You got Mark Cuban, you got Barbara Corcoran, and you know all these other entrepreneurs. What did it feel like to walk into the room there?
Oh man, we were super nervous. I mean, obviously everyone that walks in there is super nervous, but it's not as bright as you would think on TV. It's kind of dark in there, and it's kind of looking through the darkness, looking at these sharks looking at you. Oh man, and they have us wait for a little bit before they start filming. So we're just standing there, and we're quite nervous, and luckily they had us in the hotel for 10 days prior because of COVID. So we practiced it every single day. So that really paid off. We came through and we belted out our pitch, and man, it was awesome.
I think once we got to the pitch, we kind of practiced it enough. It's once you get to talking, you kind of those nerves kind of simmer down and you kind of go into your flow. So, but yeah, I mean, you get a lot of adrenaline pumping. So it was hard to remember what we were asked after we finished up because it was exciting and we kind of had to think about it the next day. I was like,
that's right.
What all did they ask us? So
what did we agree to? Yeah.
It was such a rush because, we were in quarantine for so long. We didn't have any interaction with anybody else. And then once 6 months to a year of payoff, and we're like, man, this worked out great. And we're out of our quarantine all at one go. We were just ecstatic.
A lot of emotions.
It's right. We're like, woo, jackpot.
How long did it actually last? Because I know you only see a small portion, obviously, of it on TV. Was it like an hour-long kind of session or 2 hours? Or like how long did it last?
It depends. It's one of their trade secrets. So you're allotted a time frame, a max time frame. Ours was, quick, relatively quick compared, but they just give you a certain time frame that's, part of their process.
And when you were there, I mean, being able to, I think many entrepreneurs in the audience would kind of consider that to be like their dream almost, to be able to be pitching and to kind of put yourself on the line there and to know that you can even stand up to that level of scrutiny, right? When you were walking away from the show, like what did it feel like when you started to walk away and you guys are now having your debrief and your convo between each other?
I mean, for me, it was a satisfaction because we put in a lot of hard work, for the business in general. We had a good 2 years of prep to manufacturing, so did a lot of long hours, as they always say, blood, sweat, and tears, working full-time jobs and things like that to get it going. So once we, we're in front of the top of the business world, they've seen, numerous pitches, hundreds, thousands of pitches over the years on the seasons of the show. So it was just a good satisfaction that it went well. They liked our product. So for us, it was very rewarding for all that effort. And kind of the point where you're like, we did it, I can't believe it actually happened, but, we had a great plan and strategy going into it.
Yeah.
And we executed. We're super pumped about the outcome for us and, looking forward to the future. So,
what's kind of interesting is one of the things you mentioned in the beginning is just the fact that everyone is so delighted, right, when they're using the product. And you can see that just with the sharks. They had so much fun, playing around with this, and you can just see how much fun it is. And like anyone at home, I think seeing that as well would want a product. So it really does come down to that just initial experience, I think, with the customer. Yeah,
and that's one thing we talked about in our pitches. Is like it's a difficult time we're going through right now. Since last year with the pandemic across the world, and people are just kind of down the dumps and whatnot. But this for us is very rewarding that standpoint of we're putting a smile on people's face in a tough time.
That's right.
They're using it. Obviously we're not promoting massive parties. People are just using it for their family at home. It's just something different. It puts a smile on their face. As soon as you have it in your hand, you pull that trigger. It's an instant smile. So for us to be able to see, daily people tagging us and having a great time, whether it's their wedding or backyard barbecue, things like that. It's a great feeling to know that something.
Especially nowadays with the pandemic and there's so many dark times, and a grin and a smile is really worth a lot these days. So we're super stoked to have this product being sold in 52 countries and creating grins all over the planet. We wake up every day and we get video submissions from people all over the world with a bubbly blast in their hand, a big grin on their face. And I feel like, it's a novelty product, but we're also promoting happiness all over the world, celebration style. So we're super excited about that aspect of it as well.
Now, I think a lot of people in the audience, the idea of getting on Shark Tank, just having that level of exposure, you made a bet and it paid off, I think, in a big way. What did that do for, organic pickup and like people tagging you on Instagram, like you mentioned. What was that like after the show?
It was heavily amplified. I'd say, our episode aired, Friday evening. So that 24-hour period afterwards was just a huge spike. You're talking just 10x the amount of traffic. Obviously the purchases went through the roof. And since then it's still been a heavy traffic. Obviously it's starting to kind of slowly, incrementally die down a little. I don't say die down, but it was such a surge that first part of the thing. So that's definitely helped increase the organic search, because obviously now people are starting to receive their packages from ordering throughout the last 10 days. They're starting to post videos, so kind of almost amplifies that as well. From people seeing the show, now they're posting it, so their friends are seeing the videos and they're saying, hey, what's that? So it kind of just goes into a cycle there, which is great for the organic and direct approach.
Did you get any like connections in the way of people wanting to sell your product, or any kind of business connections like that?
Yeah, and honestly, that was a good tip we took from some mentors. Was like, hey, you're gonna get a lot of outreach. Put those in the folder for a couple of days, because obviously we're going to focus on our customers. Customer service is key for us. So when you get that much traffic in that short period of time, you're going to have a lot of inquiries, shipping questions. So we want set aside some of those we could to focus on making sure the customers have a great experience for purchasing and receiving the product. So we'll kind of dive into that. But yeah, you got a lot of people wanting to sell, be their retail store, be distributors in other countries. So it kind of comes out of the woodworks there for several days. It was overwhelming, to be honest with you, the amount of just communication that we received in just that weekend alone. So it
sounds like you really had your hands full. And honestly, I think that says a ton about your values, man, as well. The fact that you're willing to put some of that aside just to focus on your customers, like that says a ton about your company.
Yeah, and I come from an operations background. Customer service is key. So we pride ourselves on, immediate response to our customers, to try to handle any situation, answer any questions, anything we do for them to make it a pleasurable experience, because obviously people want it to be easy, want it to be quick. So that's something we rate up there high to make sure our customers are happy with our overall service from start to finish.
Now, one of the things that I talk a little bit about that doesn't get, I think, too much attention is this idea of planning for success, right? Because in not having success is a massive problem, obviously, but also having success comes with its own problems, because then you have to make sure that your supply chain is rock solid, that you can actually handle all of the traffic and the inflow to your website, right? And then you can figure out like fulfillment and shipping and all that kind of stuff. How have you guys managed to solve that problem with fulfillment and shipping and like figure out that component?
I always joke with Station and say that's the best thing I've ever done. Because again, even trying to operate out of your home, at first, save some expense there. Obviously everybody, when start capital is always tight. We were bootstrapping throughout this process, but looking into whether to self-fulfill or have a fulfillment company was one of the first things when we were setting up the structure. And honestly, like, it's the best thing. Same way with manufacturers, I researched who could integrate with Shopify, and there were a few here that we interviewed, and we settled with Fulfill Right, which was based in New Jersey. And it's, like I said, it's just been a saving grace, because just that ability to integrate from the order management system from Shopify directly into their system. They've got a great dashboard. They handle the great fees and the pick and pack schedule, inventory stored there. They just kind of take all that hassle out of trying to do that on your own every day, of getting packaging material, running labels, going to the post office, having pickups. That's just a lot to manage when you're having a small team, especially when you're just starting off the ground. So that expense of using a fulfillment company easily justifies itself when it comes down to our time to be able to focus on our customers and other issues to grow the business. So I think that's probably been, I'm glad we started it up front versus trying to, self-fulfill.
Cobble together a solution kind of there.
It's been an excellent strategy for us to, again, have timely deliveries as soon as, for the most part, they do same day with a cutoff. It just makes the process flow much easier, so the customers are getting the product sooner. It's got a great tracking system, automatic emails with their tracking numbers, things like that, easy return process. So it's an extension of us, and they're high on customer service, they're timely. So it's just been a great fit. And,
it's insane, just the level of like automation there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
One of the other questions I had as kind of a follow-up, I think what I've noticed just from your interaction, obviously your team synergy is really good, but you also seem to be very big on using the right tools, right? So you mentioned like having analytics dashboards, getting fulfillment taken care of. Do you have any tools that you recommend for beginning e-commerce people like you who want to have that level of leverage in terms of analytics dashboards or any of the other stuff? You mentioned Shopify being one. Any other ones?
Yeah, Shopify is the main thing. Obviously, you want to be able to track what your users are doing. So obviously, having a Google Analytics number and a Facebook pixel really give you a lot of analytic information that you can dial down to in a granular detail. And you want to realize where your customers are coming from, being able to target that. One of the biggest, obviously besides fulfillment, one of the biggest things we have added in the last year is a back-end CRM system. So obviously, with more orders come more requests, more questions, and you've got your social media platforms. You got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You've got people doing emails to different email accounts, whether it be support or info. So it's a lot to handle with a small team. So you run the risk of having things slip through the cracks. So that was one thing where it's very time consuming to check all those individual accounts. You can have them set up on your phone, but still going from in one, out one. So I think our biggest step was we added a CRM that funneled all those channels into one. So it comes into either on your desktop or an app. We can add website chat. So we can literally take the job of 2 to 3 people and put it in one person from efficiency.
That is so cool. Yeah.
Max all your common questions. So it really just makes us more efficient as a team to, not have things slip through the cracks. It continues our focus on customer service, and it just makes it a very efficient process for us.
Do you have the name of that tool or one we can check out?
It's Gorgias, Gorgias. That's one of there's probably 2 or 3 top level ones. I'd say it's probably the top 5 for sure, but it's great integration with Shopify. It allows you to make actionable changes in the app. So if you want to refund an order, cancel an order, give an update on tracking, it integrates with Shopify. So you don't have to come out of the Gorgias application and go back into Shopify to make adjustments. So it's a very efficient tool to have with Shopify. And like I said, just everything funneling into one. You can keep an eye on comments on your ads. You can keep an eye on DMs from Twitter.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It just funnels into one, so you can assign it to different team members. So it's just been a great tool for us to be able to scale up as we grew, and it's more traffic, more orders, more requests. It's been incremental in our success.
Yeah, it's also got a pretty chat bot for our website as well.
Ooh, very cool. I think a lot of ways we're limited by the tools we use. If you think back into the caveman days, there was one guy who had a stone knife, right, trying to cut stuff, and then a guy invents a steel one, eventually. So it's like you're limited by the tools that you have in terms of your effectiveness to do a job. And it seems like you've identified that and you've really taken action on that. So I just got like 1 or 2 more questions for you guys. I think that, understanding where you're headed is so important because you have this team synergy going on. How do you actually figure out the vision of where you want to go from here? Because you obviously, you got the CEO, you got the creator. Like, how do you figure that out? Do you have conversations together? What does that look like?
Yeah, this is every day, all day for us. So we, again, you got to plan ahead. Obviously, you got to forecast things you want to do in the future, or that opportunity is going to pass you by. So from day one, we've always had I guess other channels to target, other possibilities, and we kind of bet those out well ahead of time, and plan it out. So for us, we seem to be on the same wavelength with everything. We've got this company, and we got 2 others we're launching. So
we're very lucky to be always on the same page. We have the same vision, it seems, for each task, for each company, for each new invention. So that part is easy for us. We see eye to eye on our goals, but we talk about them all the time, and we're
there's a high level of trust between the two.
Exactly.
I respect Station's view and his capabilities, and it does the same for us. The same for myself. So it's easy for us to talk through things, and I guess one of our most important features is that we can quickly pivot. Obviously, that being an entrepreneur, you run into challenges all the time, and people tend to overthink those and overcomplicate it. But we make a quick change, pivot, and move forward. So I think that's been vital.
Totally. I gotta admit too, man, I love your logo. Looks really cool. I was actually looking on your site, and I was looking at your snapback cap, and I'm like, that actually looks really cool just in general, like the look and the feel of it.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Well, so I was gonna say, so where can people go to learn a little bit more about Bubbly Blaster, also see some of the merch you got there and such?
Yeah, just go to our website, bubblyBlaster.com.
Okay, and that's 2 B's. bubbly blaster.com. Should they be on the lookout? Are you coming out with any new products soon?
We for Bubbly Blaster, we're looking at some accessories to add, but as far as major,
I saw the iPhone one here, the video mount.
You can add any, a mobile mount, so you can add video cameras such as GoPro. You got the phone credit, so you can put your phone and get that great point of view footage. Just a lot of applications there, depending on what you want to use the product for. So,
there are some accessories we have in development, but at the moment we are plunging into a couple new unrelated invention launches. So,
cool.
Bubbly is humming along on its own at the moment while we're bootstrapping up some other action.
Very cool. Yeah, I like the idea of the one with the video mount with the GoPro. That looks really fun. Awesome, man. So I got my final question for you, which kind of just looking back, you guys have had a very wild, adventurous ride in a very short amount of time, right? And you've experienced a lot of stuff, taking a product to market, getting past the prototype phase, getting on a major TV show, right? And figuring out the whole system, and then now building out other products in different niches. So if you could maybe think a little bit about, if you were just getting started or with that first product, what advice would you want to pass on? Either a word of encouragement, a final tip, something you think that's not covered enough by people like myself, podcasters or the media or whatever. What do you think you would pass on to that person?
I think, when you're an entrepreneur and you have a product that you've developed, the pride of authorship is extremely high. So I think my best advice, which we went through personally, so made some fumbles there at first, but you have an idea of what you want to do and how you want to create it, and I would say don't be so engulfed in that idea. Make sure you're getting feedback from your market, your target market, from others, because you don't want to be so funneled into getting exactly like you like and then not appeal to the broad audience. So you got to realize you're selling this to others. So I think taking a step back, trusting your team, kind of going through the concerns of, is this going to be, a product viable to the audience we're really, going for, or is this something just I would like? So I think we went through that stage where we did some things, especially on the advertising side, that we thought we would like, and we kind of had to readjust our focus there. So, and obviously as an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to put the hours in. You're going to fail at things. You just got to take it on the chin, keep moving, and have the trust in the team members and the dedication there. If you do stumble, pick yourself back up and keep pushing.
Keep on blasting.
Well said. Would you add anything to that, Stacen?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say my number one thing when starting business, I mean, for me, it's all about our incredible teamwork here. I mean, without Brad, we would be nowhere. Without my operation, we wouldn't be a team. So for people that are starting out, I would really choose who you start a business with wisely. That's the number one thing to vet out in my book. I mean, you can have a great product, you can have a great idea, you can be very smart people, but ultimately the way you work together and having the same goals and getting to those goals, with ease is really the way to make a strong business in my mind. It's all about the people that you're with.
Well said. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I think you're going to inspire a ton of people with this episode. So look forward to that, and good luck with your new product lines, and wish you all the success.
Right on.
Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks, man. Good talking to you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. I hope that you took tons of great stuff out of today's show. And at the very least, you found it to be a tiny bit inspirational, or at least an example, I think, of what is possible. A lot of the times we look at big name entrepreneurs, or big name people out there in the media space, and you think that they're like untouchable, right? You think that they're like not real almost, and you'd never be able to get access to them. But I think this story shows that how anyone, if you really have persistence and you have a great product and you do what you can to get the word out there, even advertise it, you never know whose attention you're going to snare, right? And really the only prerequisite, the only thing that's required of playing this game, and it is a game, obviously, the only thing that's required is being willing to put yourself out there, being willing to say, this is what I'm doing. This is my product, right? This is the thing that I'm trying to make happen, and I think that you would love. And just be willing to stand behind it, to guarantee it, and to say, this is something that I'm proud of, right? So if you're willing to do that, that's literally the only ticket of entry, I call it. It's the ticket of entry in order to get the attention of some big name people, in order to sell more products, in order to get customers, and attract partners. You have no idea where this journey can lead, and it's so exciting, I think. So first of all, number one, if you're really committed to doing that, make sure that you tune into these other episodes that I'm going to be putting out this year on this podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're on a podcast app like iTunes or Spotify. I'm going to be coming out with a ton of great stuff. Number two, the folks at Fulfill Right were so great about getting me this guest, right? So if you want to thank them, number one, go and check out their services. They're really good when it comes to the fulfillment side of the equation, but also we actually collaborated on a great checklist for you. So you can download this checklist for free. It's a complete Kickstarter and crowdfunding shipping and fulfillment checklist. I know that doesn't sound very fun to do that, right? But the cool thing is, like, you don't actually have to do any of the work, One of the things that I hated about school was, like, they make you do all this work, right? When they could really just have a checklist of things that you go down in order to figure something out. You don't have to learn everything, You don't have to necessarily learn this in depth. Instead, you do have to have a cursory knowledge of it. You have to know how it works from a very high level. As an entrepreneur, it's very important. I keep using that word, but a small business owner, creative, whatever. It's really important to have a high level view of what's happening, right? You got to know the processes and the basic strategy and that kind of stuff, but you don't have to be involved necessarily in the nitty gritty details of the implementation and the execution. And that's honestly what the hallmark of a good leader is. A hallmark of a good leader is knowing when they don't need to be involved in the details, knowing when they don't have to be a part of the nitty gritty, and when they can have more of a leadership vision, bird's eye view of the process, right? So this would be, to me, the first step for, hey, I'm not looking to master and become like an expert in order fulfillment, but I just want you to give me as it is, Sal. Like, tell me what to do, tell me the tools to go and check out, tell me the things to download, tell me the websites to go to, and just so I can get up to speed in a matter of 30 minutes, right? That is the checklist that I put together for you with the folks at Fulfill Right. So if you want to go and check that out, you can go to fulfillright.com/checklist. That is FULFILLRITE.com/checklist. That's fulfillright.com/checklist. In addition, that one is for crowdfunding. If you want one that's a little bit more specified for Shopify, and I'm talking the best apps, best themes, like everything that you need to know when it comes to e-commerce and Shopify. I also worked on one with Brandon there, who's one of the head of the marketing departments there, a really great guy, and I think you might have had him on the show a couple of times by now. We put together one for Shopify. So that's fulfillright.com/Shopify. Fulfillright.com/Shopify will take you there. Just enter your name and email, and you can get a free download of that checklist as well if you want to. So I hope you enjoyed that episode and that you took some good stuff away. Really appreciate it. If you want to stay more up to date with some of the stuff that I'm doing, go and check out my website, CrowdCrux. Got the YouTube channel. Just search my name, Salvador Briggman. But also one of the new things that I'm doing is I'm doing more Instagram, right? So I don't really, use Instagram very much personally. Every once in a while, I'll do a post. But for the business, I'm putting a lot of bite-sized micro content, I call it, onto Instagram. So things like, you listen to the long podcast, right? What if you just had a simple 1-minute snippet of the most valuable part of the podcast? Well, you can get that on Instagram, right? What if you don't want to go on YouTube and search me and find me there? Well, I publish my YouTube videos, at least the older ones now, on IGTV, and they're going to be updated as we go, right? So I'm putting out more IGTV videos. I'm putting out more bite-sized podcast videos. And what's more, I'm also putting out bite-sized video content that I kind of grab from my YouTube videos. So if you don't want to listen to an entire long 10-minute long YouTube video, or sometimes 15-minute long, if I'm getting really in-depth into something like how to create a product from scratch, right? Then you can go to Instagram and just really quickly watch a video there, 1 minute long, the best bite-sized version of that video. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.